and welcome to Week 9 of Jets Final Drive. I'm your host, Jeane Coakley. Like always, I am joined by SNY. Oh, look at Connor right there. SNY NFL insider Connor Hughes, and from The Athletic, our good friend Zack Rosenblatt. Sorry, Zack. Connor's throwing me off right now. Connor, you really want this to be a great show, don't you?
I'm fired up. I'm just hoping that I don't have to do the second half
up
from the bathroom after drinking this stuff. So we're going for the gold. And like a true grinder, I'm stirring with a pen because I didn't have a spoon. Completely forgot to. I'm also fairly certain I just dropped cayenne pepper on the floor.
Can I try it too with the cayenne pepper?
Oh, you're doing it too? Hell yeah! Let's go, Jeane.
How much did you put in? How much did you put in?
I did 3 over. I have no idea how old this stuff is. So
Zack, you're going to hold it down for us?
I'm going to watch you guys do it. Okay. I hope Connor can't talk after he's done, though. That's my
Cheers. Okay. A reminder, you can find the audio version of Jets Final Drive on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. Where'd Connor go? He's bending over. Okay. Guys, we're talking about a win. We got cayenne pepper. We got water. We got Zack. We got Connor, who can't open his eyes. Can't talk. This is great, Zack. It's going to be me and you, okay? All right, guys, there was plenty of tricks and treats on Halloween as the Jets finally got a win. Hey, it wasn't pretty. In fact, it was downright ugly at times, like the time Malachi Corley dropped a touch. Connor, don't cry.
No, but this is so bad because I had cayenne pepper remnants on my finger and I wiped my eye. So this isn't even from drinking. We're off and rolling, boys and girls.
The Jets won. This is exciting. I know you were upset about Malachi Corley dropping a touchdown before reaching the end zone. Their special teams had 2 extremely costly penalties, but hey, they managed to hold on and win thanks to, I got to say, the most unbelievable catch that I've ever seen in the 20 years I've covered the NFL. Garrett Wilson's catch to beat the Texans 21-13. So the Jets are now 3-6, but keep their playoff hopes alive. After yesterday's win, what percentage chance would you give the Jets to run the table and make the playoffs? Connor, can you talk right now? Are you good?
Yeah, my eyes are finally blinking it out. I'm not talking about playoffs yet. I'm not talking about the Jets running the table at all. I think it is way too early to even consider that. But what the Jets did last night, Jeane, was they saved their season. Like Aaron Rodgers said in the second half, they were on the brink of absolute disaster with the chants raining down, the fans with the bags over their heads. I mean, it was ugly as I have ever seen at any point covering this team. Seriously, it was that bad. And for them to bounce back the way that they did, what it does is it gives you hope that they can potentially turn this around. They are not dead yet. They will be 100% back. You can begin to start thinking about the playoffs if they beat the Arizona Cardinals next week and then they beat the Indianapolis Colts in yet another primetime game. If that happens to get their record of 5-6, the Jets are back. You can start thinking playoffs. Don't yet. But now the possibility is there for them to be back, and you can start thinking, at least believing again, because I would have been dead if they lost.
Zack, why aren't you drinking your cayenne pepper? Just out of curiosity, before I let you answer that question.
So I'm saving it for my Jets podcast flight plan because we promised our listeners that I would do it on there, and I'm not going to do it twice in one day. I don't think Thomas Morstead would approve of that.
Okay, that's fair. We'll plug your podcast at the end of the show. So what are your chances?
No, we won't.
Yes, we will. Go ahead.
I'm kind of not to agree with Connor. I hate doing that at all costs, but I would say it's too early to say they're going to run the table. Like if we're putting a percentage on it, it's still pretty low. That winning out, running the table, all those things, it's hard to do for a team that has shown capable of doing that. And the Jets, historically, they've done this where they're struggling and they come out and have an improbable win. You need to see them do it more than once. If they can go out and beat the Cardinals in Arizona and they can beat the Colts at home, go into the bye on a little winning streak, you start to feel better about their chances. But they dug themselves into a pretty deep hole that's still going to be hard to climb out of. But a lot to be encouraged by in that game, especially on offense, the way they played in the second half on offense, the pass rush kind of stepping up. There was a lot to be excited about. But the first half, to Connor's point, was really, really bad. So you can't have those many bad first halves against good teams and expect to survive it. So that's there's still some concerns, but you feel a lot better about their chances of at least playing better, living to fight another day, all of those things.
Well, you guys both mentioned it was the tale of two halves. Aaron Rodgers had under 40 yards in the first half, but again, came alive in the second with 3 touchdowns, 3 consecutive drives that ended in touchdowns. What changed with Aaron Rodgers in the offense in the second half, Connor?
He started hitting his throws. It's that simple, and I don't mean to make this as elementary as possible, but if you think about the first half, Jeane, guys were open from quite literally the very first play of the game. Davante Adams on the go route. I mean, if Rodgers just hits him, that is a long, long, long gain. There was another one as well up the right sideline going the other direction, the same area that Garrett Wilson scored. Again, Aaron Rodgers just missed it. He was off. He looked in no way, shape, or form like even he did against New England or he did against Minnesota. It was bad on so many fronts. When he got to the second half, for whatever reason, those throws that he wasn't making, he started to make. I really think what probably catapulted him, and I didn't even realize it in real time, but the Jets scored on every possession in the second half except for the one where they kneeled in victory formation, which you can count as the best win and score that you can possibly have. When he hit that fourth down throw to Davante Adams, that's when I felt like everything changed, because the Jets then came back. They ended up scoring on that drive with the ridiculous catch from Garrett Wilson, and then it was kind of just off to the races. Guys were open. Rodgers was hitting him. He was looking comfortable in the pocket. The offensive line solidified itself, and that's when this thing really took off. But I do believe, genuinely, it's that simple. It was the throws that he wasn't hitting, he started hitting.
Zack, what'd you say?
Yeah, that first drive coming out of the half, like they needed that. You need to come out and you need to play. If they had, did not finish that, even the fourth down was a great play for sure. But if they don't finish that drive with the touchdown, and Garrett Wilson makes a remarkable one-handed grab, not even the one that we talk about later, but if Garrett's touchdown on I believe it was third down also, but was it a remarkable play? And it kind of changed, it opened things up, and then all of a sudden they were playing a little more comfortable, a little more loose, and that's kind of what it came down to. The first half, they were really tight. Aaron was awful, like he said it himself. And once he started hitting those throws and you have Garrett making these amazing plays and the defense is getting the Texans offense off the field, like you start to feel a little better about your chances the rest of that game. And so, yeah, once Aaron gets into a groove, he's as good as anybody. But, he looked really, really bad in the first half and he looked really, really good in the second half. It was a tale of two halves, like we keep saying.
And Jeane, they I'll be honest, they can beat anybody when their offense is playing like that. Like that wasn't coach speak after the game. That wasn't cliches. That is 110% the cold hard truth about this team. They are a dominant football team when they are clicking and firing like that. For the first time, that was the most complete we've seen them look, because even when they beat the Patriots and even when they beat the Titans, there were drives in those games. There were moments in those games. There were portions where you were like, wow, that looked pretty good, even the drive against the San Francisco 49ers for the first touchdown of the game. But it was never two full quarters, a half of tremendous football. Those touchdown drives, what were they, Zach? It was like 75, 70, and 80 yards were those drives. It was Aaron Rodgers throwing 3 total incompletions. If you had that second half production through a full game, you're talking about 40-plus points, over 400 yards of offense. Breece Hall was going. The offense was going. Everything clicked. And again, if the Jets do that, and I've gotten into arguments with people about this, like, oh, are the Jets actually as good as they look on paper? Oh, why are they holding back? Oh, all of these guys are old. Oh, they're not good anymore. No. The talent is still there. The issue for the first 8 weeks of the season, even for those 2 victories, is the Jets were playing as individuals. They were not playing as a team, and their quarterback was struggling, which was holding the entire operation back. That did not happen against the Texans in the second half. They looked like the team we thought they were going to be when they broke camp. And if they can keep that together, if they can string this together moving forward, that's when, again, like you can absolutely expect this team to make a run, because there are few teams 2-6 that are that talented. There's even fewer teams that are 3-6 that are still this talented.
And if you look at the defense, last night, the defense was the defense that we expected to see in training camp at the beginning of this season. They ended the day with 8 sacks, by far the most of the season. What stood out to you, Zach, last night for this Jets defense that they haven't been able to do in previous games?
I mean, the biggest thing was the defensive line getting off its blocks and kind of dominating up front. You saw Quinnen Williams the last couple of weeks. It started to look like the Quinnen everybody thought they were going to see. I think Will McDonald has been a revelation this season, especially in the pass rush. Hassan Reddick, even just his presence, I think, is making an impact. Even a guy like Michael Clemens, Javon Kinlaw, these guys that have been struggling all year, they all were doing really well against a Texans O-line, which their interior O-line isn't very good, but they have a couple of pretty good tackles. And the Jets D-line just absolutely dominated. And so when you do that, you're able to, do some creative things on the back end, and that's why they were able to stifle C.J. Stroud for the second straight year. There's still some concerns. The first half, there were some tackling issues. I think Sauce hasn't been playing his best, but ultimately, if you're getting to the quarterback at that rate and the Jets don't have to blitz which they've had to kind of do a little bit, and your guys are just winning your matchups up front, which is what this defense is predicated on, then you feel pretty good about it. And I think ultimately Jeff Ulbrich, this was the most vintage Jeff Ulbrich called game we've seen in a while. I think there was a lot of talk, and I know Connor even reported on some stuff about this, about whether he should keep calling plays on defense. And I think he resoundingly showed that he should, because when he's at his best and he's cooking like this, he can stifle a quarterback in CJ Stroud, who people consider one of the 10 best quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah, I mean, he absolutely. I mean, he made CJ Stroud look like Zack Wilson. I mean, that was ridiculous. He was completing under 40% of his passes. What did he finish with? I don't know if that last drive got him to 38, but at one point
11
he was
of 30.
36.
Yeah,
at one point he was 36.5%. I mean, I'm not. You guys make fun of me all the time. I'm not the mathematician, so I'm not doing that 11 divided by 30 in my head. But it was pretty ridiculous what they have done. And I look, left hand up, guys. I thought Will McDonald was going to be a bust, and I still believe that the better pick would have been a Zay Flowers or a Jordan Addison to put into this offense. I think long term that's better for the Jets. But absolutely, right now, Will McDonald is making such a difference. Those 9 pressures, that's not normal. That's better than what they ever had with Bryce Huff. Now you have Hassan Reddick in the mix. Because you have Reddick and McDonald developing as he is, Reddick getting comfortable as he is, that's leading to more one-on-one blocking for Quinnen Williams, which is why you're starting to see him, the former All-Pro, feast in ways that we have not seen this year. It's 3.5 sacks, I think, over the last 2 games, maybe 3 sacks because the Jets... the referee split some up where I thought maybe Quinnen got a sack and they actually gave it to Sherwood or whatever that was happening. But still, you're seeing that dominance. However, the one concern that I do still have, and there were portions of this game where I was sitting back saying to myself, why the hell don't they just run the ball? Why are they dropping C.J. Stroud back? Why is C.J. Stroud also holding on to the ball a Deshaun Watson level amount of time and then running around leading to sacks? 2 of those field goals, one specifically, Stroud running backwards and getting sacked almost like we used to see with Geno Smith and Sam Darnold. That's the reason why they weren't able to convert the field goal. It took a chip shot and made it significantly longer. Why is he doing those things? That's not just the Jets defense, but the run defense is still a major concern for me, because I don't necessarily know, guys, how that is going to get better, because their run-stuffing player that they signed, Lakey, he's back on the injured reserve. We have no idea when he's going to come back. And the players that they have right now, Kinlaw's not a run defender. Quinnen's not really a run defender. Michael Clemens, they thought was a run defender. He's not. We know Will and Hassan Reddick are not run defenders. So if a team can establish the run like the Texans did in the first half and then stick with it, because the Texans, even think about it, guys. It's a 2nd and 7 down on the goal line, and they have Joe Mixon throw a pass to C.J. Stroud. You're averaging 5 yards a carry. What are you doing? It's just outsmarting themselves. So the team that establishes the run and sticks with it, I think they're going to give the Jets defense issues, even after what I saw against the Texans last night.
Zach, I don't think the Cayenne pepper has calmed Connor down, because he's still talking.
No, I'm fired up, man. I'm about to go run.
I was hoping it would quiet him.
That we thought. Zach, is applying pressure the key to the Jets' offensive success, though? Is that going to be the strong point of this Jets defense? Yeah,
always. When Robert Saleh was here and with Jeff Ulbrich, their whole defense, and this is dating back to when they were with the 49ers, it's predicated on their defensive linemen winning their one-on-ones. So you don't have to blitz. You can have everybody else be covered. You can get creative on the back end. And there was a lot of games this season where they were not winning those one-on-ones in the pass rush. Like Connor said, they're still not really winning them in the run-stopping game. Joe Mixon was running all over them. I have some concerns about their ability to stop mobile quarterbacks like Kyler Murray, and they have James Conner in the backfield next week with the Cardinals. But yeah, ultimately up front is where they're gonna win these matchups. And then you need Sauce Gardner maybe not making as many mistakes on the back end and the tackling to shore up a little bit. But if you're getting that pass rush, then kind of everything else will fall into place, I think.
Now listen, there were some scary things to look at during that game last night, because there was a lot of inexcusable mistakes. This week, it came on the special teams. First, it was a roughing of the kicker on 4th and 21 to give the Texans a first down. And then an unnecessary roughness on a field goal in the 4th that gave the Texans a shot to take the lead. The Jets special teams has been very bad all season. Are these isolated issues, or should this team be worried about the special teams continuing to cost the Jets game this season? I mean, that penalty was on the long snapper, right? I've never heard that before.
You can't contact them.
Yeah, but I'm just saying I've never seen a penalty. I mean, that's how bad it's getting for the Jets.
Yeah.
Connor, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think this is just, look, At this point, it's week 9, Janae. Like we're not talking about 1 or 2 weeks. We're not talking about this being a really sound, disciplined football team, and then they had one bad hiccup, and you kind of get concerned, and it becomes a storyline. This is just who the Jets are. Like at this point, like we're past Halloween here. Like we're more than a quarter into the season. I mean, we're halfway through the season at this point, Janae. Like the Jets are what they are, and the little issues that they're going to have are going to be the little issues that they're going to have throughout the year. They're going to make 2 or 3 dumb mistakes every single game because they are not an overly disciplined football team. That was a problem with Robert Saleh. It's gotten even more intense with Jeff Ulbrich, because Jeff Ulbrich, more so than Robert Saleh, is more of a player's coach, more laid back, and you're going to see guys make these issues. And I think in the offseason it can be something that you correct, but it's a mentality thing that I don't necessarily know you can instill in the middle of the season. And it's not just special teams, it's also the defense, it's also the offense at times. Like we saw the Jets in the first half, Janae, go tempo and still have to snap the ball with a second on the play clock and Rodgers running. A play where Rodgers again had to burn a timeout to avoid the delay of game penalty. So yeah, it's an issue, but at this point it's just going to be something the Jets need to live with. The ones that they can't live with is like the Malachi Corley fumble.
Thoughts, Zack?
Yeah, like Connor said, this has been a season-long issue. The crazy part is the special teams was kind of their saving grace the last couple of years in like all phases, punting, kicking, and coverage. And you've obviously seen the kicking fall off. Thomas Morstead does deserve credit for a 75-yard punt, pinned them on the 2-yard line.
Cayenne Water. Come on.
Cayenne Water probably helped him out there. But then the Jets turned around and gave up a 98-yard scoring drive. So it was like short-lived enjoyment. But and Xavier Gibson's had a really bumpy year as a returner. I think Irv Charles, he's kind of replaced Justin Hardy, who was such a stabilizing force for this team. And Irv makes like flashy plays, but he also can be a little wild. And that's where you see a lot of these penalties happening. But, this is something where you just hope you can overcome some of these issues. You hope the kicker, the new Riley Patterson, can be a little better than Greg Zuerlein was. And you try your best to overcome it and make some plays. And, I think they need to be maybe more willing to pull a guy if he's not doing the right things, like Xavier Gibson has been, like, whether it's giving Malachi Corley a shot back there or Isaiah Davis or something like that, because the return game has been iffy most of the season as well. But, I have bigger concern than the special teams, even if the special teams hasn't played up to its talent.
We've mentioned it a couple times, but let's really talk about the Malachi Corley touchdown, releasing the ball right before getting a touch. I mean, it was bad. It was a really bad play in football. Listen, Robert Saleh made it perfectly clear. He was on record saying, Mike, the guys aren't doing push-ups. Like, we will deal with discipline in a different way. Obviously, Jeff Ulbrich is kind of, like you just said, kind of a player's coach. If you guys are NFL coaches, dear God, I hope this will never be true. Sorry, you two. What would you do? Or is Malachi, what happened to Malachi, just the embarrassment alone, is that enough punishment?
Yeah. I think it is. I mean, honestly, that guy is he's gonna be a meme. Like, honestly, Jenny, when it happened, the first thing that came to my mind was, it's the Deshaun Jackson play. So Deshaun Jackson had a wildly successful career. He made so many plays throughout his career that were ridiculous. The walk-off touchdown against the Giants, you'd think that would be the first thing that comes to your mind. But for me, the first thing was, Deshaun Jackson did that. He threw the ball before the goal line, right? Like, so it's going to be something that follows him throughout his career. And I think that for such a young guy who played kind of low-level college ball, still trying to find his way, really has struggled to even get on the field. For him to finally get his opportunity, have all of us during that play and immediately after, before we realized he dropped the ball, being like, who the hell is that? Right? Maybe it's because he's wearing number 14 now, but like all of us thought the same thing. Like, dude, that dude is fast. Put the ball in his hands. Like, get that guy the ball in space. Like, he is a freaking, like, just car racing down the field. It was absurd. So I think, it just immediately changed. Now everyone's like, oh my God, there's the Jets. Oh my God, of course this is the Jets. Oh, inventing new ways to lose. There's a new way to lose. Like, that's the feeling. It's going to follow him for a while, where it's almost like I'm surprised the Jets didn't give him another carry that game, because when something like that happens, you almost want to get the ball in his hands right away, just because he's going to be running like his hair's on fire. So honestly, I think what Jeff said after the game, it's inexcusable. What Aaron said after the game, it's inexcusable. But it's the same thing. Like, he's going to own that. And having talked to Malachi a handful of times in the locker room, he doesn't strike me as like this player who's aloof this player who's in it for himself, the player who's just going to celebrate every look. Like, he's not that type of a kid. He's not that type of a guy, where this was, honestly, from getting to know, this was a mistake. This was something that he screwed up. This is something he's going to own. And like Jeff said, and I genuinely do believe it, you will never see that happen from Malachi Corley again. And lucky for the Jets, it really didn't cost them in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, and like you said, he's a really nice kid. Zach, what do you think?
Yeah, in the moment, like, my immediate tweet, like, which didn't age very well, was like, maybe they should have been giving Malachi Corley the ball more often based on this play. And then immediately you see the replay where he dropped the ball at the goal line. But, ultimately, it's a unique case. Like, if this was a veteran, then you bench him, or if it's somebody that's not that important, you cut him. But with Malachi, he's a guy that hasn't touched the ball. That was his second touch of the season, and this happened. So I think what the Jets need to do, and what they will do, is you have to build this rookie up so he doesn't lose his confidence. Get him back out there, get him the ball again, make sure he understands that, you can't do that, but at the same time, like, we still believe in you. And, I think they drafted him in the third round because they believe in his talent. They were trying to trade up to get him in the second round. Aaron Rodgers wanted him, and they haven't played him almost at all, which, to the chagrin of a lot of fans. But this is something that it's going to be all anybody remembers him for until he makes his next big play. And so I think you feed this guy the ball because he's a playmaker ultimately, and you hope to build his confidence back up, because that's, for a rookie, a guy that hasn't touched the ball, hasn't played much, a guy who's going to be on this team for 4 years at the least. Like, you don't want this to like be the thing that he just is in the back of his head every time he touches the ball, every time he's getting near the end zone, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And again, like, the thing I want to hammer down too is, like,
sorry.
And I do too. I think he's going to be a playmaker. But, like, again, like, if you would have asked me, every player in this roster, who do I think would have made that mistake? Malachi Corley would have been so low on the, like, again, I want to stress to fans, because they haven't had a chance to listen to him speak too often, because he really hasn't been playing. They haven't seen him on the field too often. He really didn't do too much in the preseason. He's very much a developmental project, other than his name and knowing that Aaron Rodgers wanted him. This is not the kid who does this. Like, Ardarius Stewart, when he played with the Jets, he's a player I could see doing this. Like, there are some players that you come in contact with where you're like, that's it. Mario Manningham's another one. I know he made a tremendous catch in the Super Bowl. He was one of those guys that kind of tended to be a little bit aloof that I've covered. I was like, I could absolutely see him making a mistake like this. Like, this is not the mistake that this kid makes. It is not the type of person that he is. It's not the type of player that he's going to be. Emotion obviously got the best of him. It was frustration of, I'm finally playing my first touch. I'm getting a touchdown. Hell yeah, let's go. I think caught a screen earlier in the year, but still, like, I think it was just overload and a mistake in prime time, and I can promise you that this is not going to happen again. And honestly, I would still keep trying to figure out ways to get the ball in his hands, because he is a dynamic playmaker.
Like I said, Connor, you and I were sitting next to each other, and I literally looked at him like, wait, that guy's fast. Who is that? Because I'm not used to seeing 14 out on the field. Speaking of dynamic playmakers, speaking of unbelievable athletic ability, how about Garrett Wilson in that touchdown catch? I got to say, it's probably one of the best in Jets history. I've seen a lot of Jets football. Not necessarily a lot of Jets football touchdowns, but this was unbelievable. I mean, do you think this was a better catch at MetLife Stadium than Odell Beckham Jr.? There we go. You have the split screen right there.
I would say
I was in attendance for both of these.
Oh,
so I was writing for I was in college, like, and so in 2014, before I started covering the Jets, I was freelancing for SB Nation and Big Blue Interactive, just trying to get my feet wet in the industry and get a byline. And that was one of the games that I was covering, Odell's rookie year. And I can tell you that from having covered, I don't even know how many football games since 2014 in person, that Odell Beckham Jr. catch is the only catch that has ever taken place where anyone who, like, I guess fans don't realize this, the press box is quiet. Like, you are not supposed to make noise in the press box. It is a quote-unquote working environment. There's no cheering. There's no clapping. There's, like, you'll talk to the person next to you, but that's it. When that catch happened with Odell Beckham Jr., that is the only time I've ever heard a press box almost at the same time in unison say some variation of, holy crap, oh my God, holy S-H-I-T, like just an audible, like, oh my God, what happened? What Garrett Wilson's catch was absolutely remarkable. It was tremendous. But the Odell Beckham Jr. one is on just a complete other level. For one, it was 3 fingers that caught the ball. It was reaching about 5 yards out of bounds, it felt like, to make the catch. It was being interfered with, and it was also doing all with one hand. It was a true one-handed grab because he made it and then pulled it in all with one hand. Again, the Garrett catch is still a 10 out of 10. It was an unbelievable one, but he wasn't interfered with. He brought it with one hand to the second hand and then to his body. The shin was great, like all that stuff, but he wasn't interfered with. It was the Beckham catch is still like all the way up there, and Garrett admitted this too, by the way. Like Garrett, I'm not like trashing Garrett. He straight up said, no, the Odell Beckham Jr. catch, just to be in that conversation is an accomplishment. But it is still Odell 1 and then Garrett Wilson 2. But it was the second most ridiculous catch I've ever seen in person. It's going to be the catch of the year, but it's not the Odell one.
Zach?
I would say if you're talking pure like the catch, the Odell Beckham one is more impressive. But if you're talking like impact and what happened, I think Garrett's like the Jets win that game because of Garrett Wilson. The Giants lost the game that Odell made that catch. So I think it just depends on the way you're asking the question. But yeah, ultimately, like Devontae Adams joked that he might have to go to Air Jordan as a sponsor because he looked like Michael Jordan up there. Literally, the way his legs are spread, the way his arms.
100%. That's a jump man 23 right there.
Yeah, like it was remarkable, and it's a kind of play that there's maybe 5 or fewer receivers that are capable of making in the NFL. Like it's legit, and it should not be overlooked. Like this, I thought this was a coming out party for Garrett Wilson. He's been amazing lately. Like he's playing his best football of his career right now. But this was the game that I think we all knew he was capable of, and we were waiting for it. Where he swung the game, like he won this game for them with both of those touchdown catches. They had to be aware of where he was on the field. I think it opened. Devontae Adams being there has definitely helped him. But I think on the flip side, I think him having this game helped Devontae yesterday, where the Texans had to go one-on-one with Devontae, and that's why he was able to get behind some cornerbacks and make a couple of big plays. So I just think more than anything, this catch just represents like what Garrett is capable of, and that's being one of, if not the best wide receivers in the NFL.
And what we forget too is
Garrett's wanted Rodgers to throw those balls before. He's begged for Rodgers. Hey, just throw it up there.
And they haven't done that. And that's what I tweeted this during the game, and I had a handful of Jet fans, which is I love Jet fans. I do. Like you guys are why this show is taking off. Oh, well, not a fraction. But they're like, you idiot! Why? Because I tweeted during the game. I was like, the Jets.
That was me yelling, "You idiot!" Sorry.
Oh, good.
Yeah, you weren't the only one. Like they were like I tweeted out during the game. I was like, the Jets need to throw it up to Garrett Wilson. They need to take more deep shots to him. Let him go make a play on the ball. Like I don't think he's one of the best 50-50 ball guys in the entire NFL, but he's still an elite level 50-50 guy. So go give him chances to make plays. So much of what we've seen throughout this year has been like the slants to Garrett Wilson, the ins to Garrett Wilson, the outs to Garrett Wilson. Like there really hasn't been the Joe Burrow quote, F it, Chase is down there somewhere, just boom, throw it out there. We haven't seen that to Garrett Wilson. Seen a little bit to Mike Williams, but not Garrett, and I don't necessarily know why. So I tweeted, I was like, we need to see more of that. This play happens, everyone's like, you idiot. I was like, they just justified what I've been screaming about. Like, do this more. And I hope that this was a reminder, maybe Aaron needed to see it to believe it, that like sometimes, as long as it's a one-on-one opportunity, trust Garrett to go make the play. I know he's not 6'5". I know he's not like the most physically imposing receiver in the NFL. And he probably is, if you weighed out his traits, better with the ball in his hands after the catch than he is in those opportunities. But he's still really damn good in those opportunities. So if you see him one-on-one because they're shading a safety somewhere else, or they're just not in cover 2, they're blitzing like the Texans were a handful of times last night. We're trying to get the pressure and orchestrate, manufacture that rush. Go take the chance. Throw it up there. Let Garrett do something spectacular. We saw it in the opener against Buffalo where he made the play on the goal line fade. Now we see it here again. Like, give him the chance to make those plays, and I do like the opportunity for Garrett to make it happen.
Zach, I misspoke. I guess Connor should be coaching the NFL because he called it, I guess, from the beginning, right?
I mean, he knows so much football.
I've been pretty good at my predictions this year. I'm not going to lie. You can attest to that.
You did tweet late in the game. You did almost a reverse jinx where you're like, the Jets are going to win this game when they were up by like a touchdown.
It was over. That game was over.
And fans were so mad at you.
If you tell my cousin, I'll give him a shout out. Kyle Von Nessen, one of my cousins. He tweets me. We have a little group chat about sports betting, and he had texted me before the game, and he goes, what do you? What's the feel for this game? And a lot of times I'm like, dude, do not touch the Jets. Like, I don't have a feel for this. I don't have a good one for that. I'm telling you, just stay away from this game. Just don't do it. This when he texted me, I was like, Kyle, if you're looking for a bet, I like the Jets. He goes, really? I was like, I got you better. I like the Jets -7. So I don't know if he placed it, But I think he should have placed it. So I felt this game come. This was one again. I've been all right this year.
Nostradamus over here. I mean, I don't know, Connor. This is.
I also want like 10% of that cut too. Like if you like, these guys keep cashing my bets for me because we can't bet the NFL. These guys keep cashing these bets for me. I'm not even getting a cut. Like I need like 10, 15% here.
Now we're talking probably some legal stuff. Zack and I are shutting our mouths. Let's go. You know what? Let's go to
the sponsor right now. There's no logos all around this Jets Final Drive thing. I'm trying to bring in DraftKings, FanDuel, Parks Casino. I'm a businessman here for us. I'm trying to make them proud.
Shocking.
Salesman Connor.
All right, so yeah, there's a lot of other things I can put in front of your name, Connor. All right, after a Jets win, we give out a game ball. Connor, who are we giving your game ball to?
Yeah, my guy Olu Fashanu, the offensive guard. Look, when he went in there, I think all of us, I heard it from down below. I don't know if it was Samini or it might have been you, Zack, who said, is Olu playing guard? And I was like, no way. You guys are just getting his number and John's number confused. But no, John Simpson went out. Elijah Vera Tucker's out. Newman's already out. They lost Hansen. He went out. They had no options. So they had Max Mitchell playing guard. Now, he's done it a little bit, like he did it somewhat in college, and then he did it a bit last year as well. So still a wild accomplishment for him to be playing guard and playing it successfully. But Olu, I talked to him after the game. He literally has never in his life played offensive guard. I'm not just saying in a game where he confirmed never in high school, never in college, never in the NFL. Obviously, his NFL career is 9 games old. Never even took a snap. No rep in OTAs, no rep in minicamp, no rep in training camp. He has never played guard before. He was literally finding out what to do every single play from Joe Tippmann, which is also a testament to the Jets' second-year center that he not only knows what he's going to do, but telling Olu everything he's supposed to do. And guys, he held his own. Like the Jets kept, one of the reasons Aaron Rodgers was able to go, what was it, 15 of 18 with the 2 touchdowns in the second half was because he was upright. He was standing up the entire game because that offensive line was stabilized. We saw Tyron doing it, Morgan doing it, Joe doing it. But then to have Max and especially Olu thrown into that environment and to stand on his head, wildly impressive. So he gets my game ball, 110%.
Zack, what about you?
I mean, I'll go with the obvious one in Garrett Wilson. They don't win this game if Garrett doesn't make those catches, if he doesn't have the game that he did. Most of his production came in the second half like everybody else, but you know, like we touched on earlier, he just opened things up for this offense to an extreme degree. And, you know, I think Aaron Rodgers should be crediting him for his resurgence in the second half, because if not for Garrett, I don't know that we're talking about Aaron's performance in the same way. So, you know, like I said, I think this was a star-making turn for him. You hope this kind of launches him into the stratosphere that I thought he was going to be in when this year started. And then he had that rough stretch where you're like, oh man, is he going to get to that level that we all think he can? And I think he's reached it now. He has a couple of matchups coming up against teams that don't really have great secondaries. So can he go off against the Cardinals? Can he go off against the Colts and kind of go into the bye looking like an all-pro, Pro Bowl type guy? Like I think he can. And I think that catch, both touchdown catches kind of showed what he can do. And I expect to see more of that going forward.
Who's yours today? You got to get one.
Well, I'm giving it to Zack because he's a friend of the show. He's a very good friend of yours, Connor, puts up with you all the time. And plus, I want him to plug his podcast. Where can we watch you, and where can you drink your cayenne pepper water?
I'll be doing it on the Flight Plan podcast later this afternoon. Formerly Can't Wait, which we shadowed recently. We started a new one. But yeah, Flight Plan, we're on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, all that stuff. We'll be live on YouTube later this afternoon.
All right. And Connor, you get a secondary game ball. You get for downing your cayenne pepper. How you feeling? Good?
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I mean, I did. People forget this. Hey, shout out Monmouth, right? We're all looking for sponsors here. Monmouth, shout out Jets class. Monmouth.edu/amplified. Explore further. I did go to college, so I would say of all of the things that I've chugged in my life, like this isn't even top 5 worst. This was actually, it's a little burn, but if you like spice, it's fine. The thing is, don't get cayenne pepper on your finger and then touch your eye. That's the mistake that I made today. So that was an issue. That was a problem. But other than that, it tasted fine.
Connor dropping a lot of knowledge there. Appreciate you, Connor.
That's going to be our news segment, Janae. If this goes off the rails, Connor's knowledge. I'm just going to share life advice. Yeah.
Oh, dear God. That's going to get a lot of ratings. All right, well, thank you all for joining us on this episode of Jets Final Drive. Remember, you can find the audio version of Jets Final Drive on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. For Connor Hughes, who has his sight, don't worry. He got the cayenne pepper out of his eye. Zack Rosenblatt, I'm Jeane Coakley. See you in a week from Monday after the Jets take on the Cardinals. Cheers.
Bye.